Here is a question worth sitting with. Did you know that the richest person in all of recorded human history was not a European monarch, not a Chinese emperor, but an African king? A ruler from a kingdom that most of the world had never once placed on a map? And when this man passed through Egypt during his travels, he handed out gold so freely, with such pure joy and open-heartedness, that Egypt's economy took 12 full years to recover. His name was Mansa Musa, and today we're going to discover who he truly was, where his story began, and why it remains one of the most remarkable in all of human history. Stay with me. This story is full of gold, and there's something meaningful waiting for you at the very end. Around the year 1280, in the western part of the great continent of Africa, a boy named Musa Keita entered the world. We know little about those early years, but we know a great deal about the world surrounding him, and it was anything but ordinary. West Africa at that time was a place of extraordinary beauty and quiet strength. Wide rivers wound through thick, green forests. Vast open grasslands, known as savannas, stretched endlessly in every direction, covered in tall grass and scattered trees, reaching as far as the eye could see. To the south, mountain ranges rose above the plains. To the north lay the mighty Sahara Desert, an almost endless expanse of dry heat stretching thousands of kilometers, with almost no water and no shade. The people of this land were accomplished farmers, skilled traders, and gifted craftsmen. They had built cities, roads, and busy markets long before the world beyond Africa was aware they existed. And beneath the earth, hidden in rivers and soil across the southern regions of the Mali Empire, lay something extraordinary: gold. Not just a little. Enough gold to draw merchants from North Africa, the Middle East, and even distant corners of Europe, all crossing the brutal Sahara just to reach it. The empire also controlled another treasure just as valuable: salt. This simple white mineral, the kind we sprinkle on our food today, was among the most sought-after goods in the ancient world. People needed it to stay healthy. They used it to preserve food, to keep it from spoiling in the heat. In the northern reaches of the Sahara, massive natural deposits of salt sat waiting in the dry air. The Mali Empire occupied the land between the gold of the south and the salt of the north. Every merchant who passed through paid taxes to the ruler, the Mansa, a title meaning King of Kings. Generation after generation, this wealth accumulated into something the world had rarely seen. Musa was not born to rule. In his younger years, he was simply a thoughtful young man from the royal family. Watchful, patient, serious. He observed the court. He listened and learned. And then history handed him something unexpected. The king ruling Mali at that time was a restless, curious man. He had heard tales of a vast ocean far to the west, the Atlantic, and he burned with curiosity about what lay beyond the horizon. He built a fleet of boats. Some records say as many as 2,000, loaded them with sailors, food, and fresh water, and sent the first ships westward with orders to find the other side. They never returned. Rather than waiting, the king sailed west himself. He never came back either. Musa had been serving as the king's deputy, the official who manages affairs when the ruler is away. When it became clear the king would not return, Musa stepped into power. It was around the year 1312. He was roughly 30 years old, and he would go on to rule for the next 25 years, building an empire the world could not ignore. Mansa Musa was a man of deep religious conviction. He followed the faith of Islam, and one of its most sacred obligations is the Hajj, a pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca, located in what we now call Saudi Arabia. The journey from Mali to Mecca covered approximately 4,000 kilometers through harsh desert terrain and unfamiliar lands. For 2 full years, Musa planned with meticulous care, and in 1324 he departed, not quietly, but with an astonishing 60,000 people at his side. Soldiers, scholars, religious teachers, servants, musicians, cooks, and attendants formed a vast column that moved across the desert like a river of humanity. With them came 80 camels, each carrying 300 pounds of gold dust, a quantity so staggering that the weight alone would be impossible for a person to lift. At every stop along the route, Musa gave freely. He handed gold to the poor. He gave to mosques and to teachers. He paid workers who came simply to watch the great column pass. He gave the way a river gives water, without counting, because there was always more. Then the column arrived in Egypt. The Egyptian ruler, Al-Nasir Muhammad, was a powerful man, accustomed to impressive visitors. But nothing could have prepared Cairo for what arrived that summer. 500 servants walked ahead of Musa, each holding a long golden staff that caught the desert sunlight. The city had never witnessed anything like it. Musa gave gold to the ruler and his court. He gave to scholars, judges, and officials. He walked through Cairo's streets and gave to families living in poverty. He purchased goods from merchants and paid far more than they asked. He stayed for 3 months, and when he departed, something unintended had occurred. So much gold now flowed through Cairo that its value collapsed. When any commodity becomes too abundant, it loses worth. Egypt's gold market took 12 years to recover. One man, 3 months, 12 years of disruption, simply from generosity. On his return journey, Musa encountered a gifted architect and poet named Abu Ishaq al-Sahili from the city of Granada in what is now Spain. Recognizing exceptional talent, Musa invited him to Mali and gifted him 200 pounds of gold. Al-Sahili designed the famous Jingwariber Mosque in the city of Timbuktu, constructed from dried mud brick, which stays cool in the heat and warm at night. Parts of that mosque still stand today, 700 years later. But the greatest thing Mansa Musa ever built was not made of brick or gold. It was made of knowledge. Under his reign, Timbuktu became one of the world's most important centers of learning. He brought scholars and teachers from Egypt, Arabia, and across the Islamic world. He funded libraries and established schools. The Sankor Mosque grew into a thriving university, with 25,000 students studying mathematics, medicine, astronomy, law, and philosophy, all in the heart of West Africa. The world beyond the Sahara had no idea this was happening. European maps of that era showed the land south of the desert as blank, empty space, unknown, unseen. But in 1375, a Spanish cartographer produced a celebrated map called the Catalan Atlas. At the center of West Africa, he drew a figure, a great African king seated on a golden throne, wearing a golden crown, holding a golden nugget toward the sky. The inscription beside him read, "This king is the richest and most powerful ruler in all the land." His name was Mansa Musa. He had always been there. Extraordinary, generous, brilliant. The world had simply not been looking. Mansa Musa came from a land the wider world had not yet drawn on its maps. He ruled with generosity, built with vision, and left a legacy that outlasted his empire. After his death around 1337, Mali slowly declined and his story faded from memory until the world finally began to look. And that makes me think of you. Perhaps your story is not yet on anyone's map. Perhaps English still feels large and distant. But you are here. Every word you learn is like a piece of gold, permanent, growing more valuable the more you collect. Every story that becomes a little clearer adds to what you are quietly building. The gold is real. It belongs to you, and no one can take it away. Keep listening. Keep learning. Keep adding to your treasury. Thank you for being here today. Before this story, did you already know who Mansa Musa was? Tell me in the comments. If this helped your English today, please like and share. Until next time, take care of yourselves and never stop learning.